All right, cue the hate mail, cue the hate mail. All right, so the topic today, I said to myself, what can I top with the Super Bowl coming up, right? Or the Super Bowl will have passed by the time this airs. And I'm like, oh my God. Let's bring God into this. For those that know, I was homeless, houseless for 10 years, and we'll go into that. And we'll see why God made me homeless. Now, God can be whoever you want him to be. Southern Baptist, Buddhist, I don't care. We don't care on this channel. Why? Because ours is a journey of the heart. And yeah, divide and conquer is not what I want to do here. So please, no hate mail. I'm going to explain things from my perspective. And what is my perspective? I survived Catholic school. I thought I got a great education, but watch out for those nuns and rulers. Oh my gosh. So believe anything you want to believe. I don't care. I care more about the person that could be experiencing homelessness right now. And I want to talk you through my story. You know, I spent 10 years homeless. Even though I was in apartments and shelters, and well, being in a shelter, you're technically homeless. But the minute I would get into an apartment, my plan was, how do I get out of there? And the truth is, 90% of the time, I had an apartment. That's why I thought it was a huge waste of money and resources. Yeah, and I hope I make you cry on this one because my story is pretty sad. So those of you who know my story. 12 years ago, I left my crazy ex-husband. I left $2,000 in debt. I left with the clothes on my back and my van and proceeded to my first shelter. All right. Now then, what you don't know is before, I had thought about this for years to leave my husband. He stabbed me with a fork. He never stopped yelling at me. Oh my gosh, when I got to my first shelter and there was nobody yelling at me, I cried for days. I didn't understand that you could actually live a life without people screaming at you at such a high pitch. Oh, it was awful. It was just awful. But I was terrified. It's like, how am I going to take care? I had lived with abusers for 50 years. My dad was my biggest abuser, and my mom never said, hey, why not hit the kids? Or when, the beatings, me and my sisters, we were beaten to perfection, I'd like to say. But, I was a runaway. And when the cops found me, we moved from Philadelphia to New Jersey. And, my dad stopped hitting me, but that's when the mental abuse started. So 50 years of being a victim of domestic violence. And it's like, my life was so crappy. But even though I am with this abuser, what was the last thing he did? He got a t-shirt, walked up behind me and strangled me with it. It's like, my life could not get any worse. It could not. I was trapped in a bus with him for 10 years. Oh my gosh. I wasn't even allowed a thought in my head. So, but I was terrified. Can you believe I was terrified to leave that? That's what I was terrified to leave of. And, but I knew I had to leave him. Why? Because he was ramping up the violence, if you could actually believe that. And I'm not sure whether my girlfriend got me an attorney, and the shelter, they worked hand in hand. And they're like, well, good luck going back to him. You probably will be dead in 3 months, right? And it's like, I gotta leave him, don't I? And it's like, I did not want to leave him. I did not want to stand on my 2 feet. I didn't know where my 2 feet was at the time. And I was in such a fragile shape mentally. Mentally, oh my God, just imagine a whole life of somebody screaming at you. And I had multiple people screaming at me, not all at once. So, and like I said, Mom, where were you? I needed some help back then. But so that I was okay with because that was normal. Not being with that, terrifying, very terrifying. Not knowing how to make an income. My brain was gone. All right, I'm going to show you real quick. I am 5'8" pounds. I am 5'8" and 120 pounds. This is what 120 pounds gets you. That's it. There's not a lot there. I weighed less than 100 pounds when I left my husband. I was so terrified I couldn't even eat. Probably because I wasn't eating right? So it's like, yeah, I was scared. But it's funny. So basically, the shelter, the attorney told me one day when all the paperwork's ready and filed and they're good to go, you're going to get a phone call. Please act normal. Tell your husband goodbye, future ex-husband goodbye, and come on down. I think I had to go to the courthouse to do some paper. Just act like everything's normal. Well, phone call came in early one morning, about 8 in the morning, and oh my God, that was the scariest thing to do because, they can't find out that you're leaving them. It makes them very angry. They don't want you in their lives, and then they don't want you to leave them. Isn't that crazy? So I did. I kissed them goodbye, and it was so funny. I'm locking the door as I leave the bus, and I think the fear went away. This was it. This was my time to start a new life. And I talk about this, and we're getting back to God making me homeless. Darn him. But did I mention how scared I was taking on my own life? This is the first time I'm going to be an adult all by myself. I'm going to have to make adult decisions. Everybody all my life made adult decisions for me. Whether I was in the military made the decisions, and I jumped from one husband to my second husband, and the second one really loved making decisions for me. I had never thought for myself. I didn't know how to pump gasoline. I had so many life lessons to learn. It's like I was so codependent. That's a terrible word. And depressed. I was very depressed. Did I mention I was terrified? Anyhow, it was so funny. As I'm locking the bus door and heading off to my 1992 bubble top van, God, I miss that van. It's like, mentally, it's like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. And it's like, this is it. I'm jumping off the cliff, because I don't know anything else. And it's like, as I turned the key in my van and I backed out my van, it's like, I'm jumping off that mountain. As I'm jumping off that mountain, thousands of angels were there, and they lifted me up, and they wouldn't let me die. And it was the most amazing and incredible beginning of his journey. I thought I was going to be all alone, and I wasn't alone. So whoever your God is, your God isn't making you alone. And you know what I figured out that morning? God didn't want me homeless. He wasn't trying to make me homeless. He answered my prayers that I kept praying to him. And it's like, God, get me out of this environment. Well, being in a homeless and in a shelter may not have been the brightest ideas, but by golly, it worked. It really worked. And it's like, I knew I wasn't alone. That was the first time in my life I knew I wasn't alone. And I didn't have to struggle, but I did have to do some things. You know what I had to do? I had to listen to everybody. And basically, God gave me a shovel that day. And it's like, you put yourself in this hole. Well, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. I knew deep in myself I should have left my abuser a long time ago. But he gave me a shovel, which my shovel was my journal and a pen. And of course, the shelter and the wonderful people that took care of me. And he's like, all right, you start digging your way out of it. Start figuring things out. And it's like, I had rudimentary computer skills, but I knew I had to get on the computer. And it was so funny. At my first shelter, they had a computer. Now, in the bus, I couldn't do anything. We each had separate computers, but he could always see what was on my computer. And what was I typing in the computer? My symptoms. And it's like, I diagnosed myself. I had PTSD, really bad PTSD. And it's like, oh, that's not good. And it's like, then I started looking up, well, can I get on disability? How am I going to support myself? I'm $2,000 in debt. And it's like, it was the first time in my life that I actually had thoughts like this. How do I take care of myself? And then I did one amazing thing. I wrote down on a piece of paper, and I'll find it. Someday I'll show you. In 1 year, I'm going to be making $1,000 a month. And I've shown it before. And it's like, isn't that incredible? I have barely no skill. I couldn't take care of myself. I couldn't walk down the hallway without bouncing off the walls. It was that bad. I was just mentally broken. But I wrote down in 1 year, and I think that gave me faith, I will be making $1,000 a month. And it's so funny because in the 1 year, I bounced from one shelter. They put me up at Big Bear Shelter. I've escaped from that after 2 weeks. slept on people's couches and everything. And it was my sister who turned out to be an angel. And thank God we have such a great relationship now. But she told me, you were sexually assaulted during your time in the military. All you have to do is show up at any VA hospital, tell them you're homeless, and they will find a shelter for you. Well, thank God they did. More angels swarmed into my life because I was about done sleeping on my girlfriend's sofa. I really was. But that's when I got to a U.S. Vets out in Long Beach. And it's like I just kept putting one foot in front of my others. I listened to everybody. I went to they diagnosed me properly. They had attorneys come in and they helped me fill out forms. I got my Social Security disability in one shot. And yes, it takes the government forever to do this. But it was like 3 days away from my 1-year anniversary of when I left my husband. And my first Social Security disability check was $996 a month. And that's California. They give you a couple extra $100. And that was way back when. And it's like, did I not hit my goal of $1,000 a month? I did. And yeah, so I was at that shelter and for 2 solid years. And it's like for 2 solid years, I listened to everybody, every social worker. Oh my gosh, my favorite social worker is Bill. I owe him my life. He started, you know, being a social worker is one of those tough jobs. You don't make a lot of money, but he actually listened to me and he could help with me navigate the VA so I could find the exact treatment that I wanted. So next time you're thinking you have problems, and you do, and I have really big problems. It's like, oh, the other thing I want to tell you while I'm on this thing, and thank you for listening, is when I turned that keyhole and those 1,000 angels grabbed me, I told myself, I made a promise to myself. And my promise to myself was no one is ever going to yell at me again. No one's going to ever hit me, put a hand up to me. It's never going to happen. And you know what? These 12 years have been the greatest 12 years of my life. I deserve this. I deserve my happiness. And I thank God that I prayed. Whoever your God is, He answers prayers. He answered mine. So if you're struggling out there, hold on. Try doing something different. Talk to your friends. Just find help. You know, God had a much better life plan for me. Come on, man. I met Bob within weeks of me being homeless. And now, if you Google my name, I'm an American-born movie star. It's like, ha, ex-husband, you kept telling me I was nothing, I was nobody. Nope, I was in the movie Nomadland. I got to pal around with Frances McDormand. And I get to help my viewers find their footing in van life. Anyhow, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you for listening. Please comment below. And like I said, if your life is in the crapper, well, that's what we're doing, RTR 2025. I don't have the answers to your life. All I know is I listened to my attorney, and she basically was honest with me. He was ramping up the violence, and I basically had 3 to 6 months to live. So I made my peace with it. I made up my mind. I never went back to him. Not in a million years. It's like, and I did learn how to, in the end, pump my own gas. And why didn't I know how to pump gas? Because Jersey girls, we don't pump gas. That's what it is. Oh my gosh. Anyhow, thank you, everyone. I will see you down the road. And I hope I made your day a little bit better. All right. Bye.